Turbo and 2K show.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is that time of the week again. It is podcast time, and man, oh man, I am stoked. We got a buttload of football on tap for you guys and gals, as well as a rather large news segment here. So we haven't had a whole lot of news here in the past few weeks, but we got a lot of it today, and I can't wait to get it started. So I just want to welcome everyone over on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, over on TikTok, and going live on our Facebook. Our Facebook page, as well as the fan page. So if you do want to hop on over, facebook.com/group/2K crew, answer 2 questions. They'll get you in just to make sure you're not a bot. But yeah, like I said, got a great show. As you can see, we're flying solo yet again tonight. 2Ks is under the weather. Man, it seems like everyone is sick these days. I'm 2 weeks away from getting over it myself. So hope everyone is feeling good, and if not, hopefully you feel better soon. And just want to get a show of hands here, ladies and gentlemen. How many people have got their Christmas decorations up? Mrs. Turbo has decorated the house very festively, and we got out to get the lights on the outside going this weekend, so it wasn't freezing. I was very much a fan of that, because there's nothing worse than trying to put up Christmas lights in, when it's cold, and then getting on the ladder and the ladder's frozen. So just not a good look all the way around. But let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. I know you're not here to listen to me ramble on about that. Let's get into some news. Like I said, the last couple of weeks we really haven't had any real newsworthy stuff here, but this week we got quite a handful. And to get the news started, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. The Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight sucked. Did not watch a single minute of the undercard. However, I did gather on Twitter that the fight right before the Tyson Paul fight was by far the best fight of the night. And judging from the replays, I would totally agree with that. Those two chicks beat the hell out of each other. And kind of a stark contrast to the main event, which was kind of a pillow fight. Let's be completely honest. Now, going into this, I had very high hopes for Tyson, just because, he's Iron Mike Tyson, and I'm pretty sure I can speak for most everyone that we're just looking for someone to beat the hell out of Jake Paul. And there were so many people going, well, this shows he's an actual boxer. This shows he has actual talent. No, it doesn't. If that's the type of and this is the first, aside from clips that I've seen of him fight, just because I really could care less, who he fought prior to this, and probably will continue to not care who he fights even after this. So it is what it is. I mean, in my opinion, it was more of a black eye or slap in the face to Netflix, just because everyone was buffering. There was not, I mean, and this is the same Netflix that's going to have our Christmas Day football on it. And I have a feeling that they're going to get quite the same amount of traffic, just because, if we look at the Prime Video on Thursday nights, they've kind of got stuff figured out now, which is cool. But as far as moving forward, I mean, Netflix, get your shit together. I mean, come on. And there's so many people like, well, they should give us a refund. They should give us this. They should give us that. Well, if you were like me, you hopped on Antonio Brown's Twitter and just watched it from there. Was it the same? No, not even close. But with the amount of action that actually went on, I mean, thank goodness it was not a pay-per-view, because if it was a traditional pay-per-view, then yes, everyone should get their money back, because that was absolutely ridiculous. But as far as the actual boxing was concerned, I'm almost and I've seen a lot of people online saying that, the conspiracy theorists are out there, that it was in Tyson's contract where he couldn't knock Paul out with uppercuts or anything like that, which is why you kind of saw him kind of look like he had cement boots on. I mean, it literally looked like he was walking in quicksand. And that, granted, yes, I know he's 58 years old, but if you watched the training videos of Mike, totally different person. Was this nothing but a cash grab? Absolutely. I think Paul got 40 million and Tyson got 20. So it is what it is. I was just hoping for a little bit more, and I was let down. And I think the vast majority of us would agree that yeah, we were let down. We were let down. But I do have some tweets to go along with this, so let's dive into the first one here. This is from Sam Morale. Jake Paul can say he beat Mike Tyson as an old man, or can beat Mike Tyson as an old man. If you fuck a playmate when she's in her 80s, it's not as cool either. Very good point, Sam. Very good point. And here's another one here from Patches O'Houlihan. Mike Tyson shaking hands with Bill Belichick, going 8 rounds with people in their 20s. I mean, when it comes to stuff like that, the internet remains undefeated, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, we literally saw not a lick of boxing in that whole 8-round fight. And one of my things is why I think it was kind of rigged is that there's no way it would have ever gone 8 rounds if Mike could have actually hit him. He would have either been going at him at an enormous pace and just gotten tired, and then Jake would have caught him, or he would have caught Jake and it would have been done. It'd have been done. But enough of that. Let's get into something hopefully a lot more people can enjoy here. Let's talk about Bobby Witt Jr., the shortstop for the Kansas City Royals. MLB Network tweets BMJ makes history in his 3rd season. Fact, Bobby Witt Jr. joins Alex Rodriguez as the only shortstop to win a batting title, Gold Glove, and Silver Slugger. And Witt did this all in 1 year. So that is definitely, I mean, you have seen, if you followed the show for any amount of time, you know that 2Ks and I are very, very big Bobby Witt Jr. fans. And if you are a Kansas City Royals fan, you should be, I mean, just ecstatic that they extended him. So he will be there hopefully his whole career. But let's kind of dive a little bit deeper into that here, 2K crew. This is from Codify over on Twitter. Imagine having the highest batting average in MLB and hitting 32 home runs and stealing 31 bases and setting single season team records for extra base hits and total bases and winning a Silver Slugger award and winning a Gold Glove and being an all-star all in one season. That just that tells you what type of a season Bobby Witt Jr. had. And for those that don't really know or aren't avid baseball fans, he is a very special talent. I mean, we talk about the Juan Sotos just because he's going into his free, he's a free agent now and going to be garnering a very large paycheck. We talked about Shohei Ohtani last year, kind of doing the same thing. But if you look at homegrown talent and the young influx of talent coming in, I mean, it is the shortstop position right now is absolutely loaded. Absolutely loaded. So I can't wait to see some of the improvements that these gentlemen are making. And let's go to someone who's been definitely in the spotlight here. This is again from Codify. Mookie Betts won a Silver Slugger Award in 2016, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2022, 2023, and 2024. He's pretty good. I would agree. And as a Red Sox fan, still the dumbest trade in Major League Baseball history was getting rid of Mookie Betts. And look, it wasn't the fact that they got rid of him. It was the fact of the haul that they got back or lack thereof. Let's kind of put it that way. Again, generational talent, top 5 player in the league. We'll let you go for a bunch of bums. That I think Wong is the only one from that trade still remaining on the roster. And it's even wilder to think that Mookie Betts has now been a Dodger longer than he's been a Red Sox, or longer than he was a Red Sox. Let's put it that way. So kind of crazy to think about that if you want to think about it in those terms. What is this here? And when it comes to Detroit sports, the Lions are on top of the world right now. The Tigers, excelled way more than anyone thought they would have. Well, what about the Pistons? I mean, the Pistons are quietly putting together a decent season here, all on the back of Cade Cunningham. This is from Nick Bradell over at Motor City Banter. Excuse me. Cade Cunningham is the 6th player in NBA history to record 3,000 points, 900 assists, and 150 steals in their first 150 games. The other three players, LeBron James, Allen Iverson, Luka, Grant Hill, and Isaiah Thomas. And if you ask me, that's not too shabby of a crowd to be in. Now is this is total lack of basketball preparation on my end, but I do remember that when the Pistons did get the number 1 overall pick and did draft Cade, he was by head and shoulders above the competition. Do I think some Detroit fans would have wished they would have gotten the number 1 overall pick in a different draft? Sure. I mean, you could have Wemby. I mean, you could have any, insert name here of any other player, but I like the direction they're going. Like I said, not a huge fan. Are they to the level that the Lions are? No, but they are playing some respectable basketball, which I really, really enjoy. Well, 2K crew, I think that's all the news. Yep, that is all the news. So let's get into some college football, which is why everybody's here to begin with. All right, 2K crew, college football, as the graphic and thumbnail say, it was a huge win for Georgia. We'll get into their game here in a bit, but kind of start off like we have the past few weeks. 2Ks and I did not get the college game day location correct. And if you remember back, my choice was Oregon at Wisconsin. Just for the point being, this was the new toy for the NCAA. This was the new, the West Coast team coming into the Midwest because of the weather. I actually thought Wisconsin would have a little bit better showing this year, which would kind of make that game a little bit more, which it turned out to be a great game. But it'd be more of a destination game. Excuse me. There it is. Excuse me. So let's start out there in Wisconsin. Oregon comes away with the win 16-13. Definitely not the overpowering Oregon offense that we're used to seeing. But I mean, like I said, I actually thought the Badgers would be a better team than 5-5 after this game. I thought this would have a little bit more weight, going into, coming down the stretch here to be, a very, very important Big Ten game. But it wasn't. I mean, it was definitely a very important game for Oregon, just because they're looking to remain undefeated, which they did. But then again, I mean, we saw Dylan Gabriel kind of have a very pedestrian game, 218 yards passing, no touchdowns, and an interception. If it wasn't for Jordan James, the running back, having 121 yards and a touchdown, I mean, this game could have went any number of ways. But we saw that Oregon defense kind of play a role here and limit Wisconsin to 96 yards passing and 130 yards rushing. So definitely a very close call. I still believe that when the college football selection committee, I still think they're going to remain number 1, just because of kind of the competition that's behind them. But definitely one that Oregon, and again, the weather in Wisconsin wasn't horrible. The reason I selected this game was because it is November. It is Wisconsin. It is the Midwest. The possibility for snow, sleet, rain, nastiness, cold is a real thing. Now, did it pan out? No. But I thought that Game Day would want to kind of document kind of the first big test of a highly ranked West Coast Big Ten team coming into the Midwest. And and what we've seen is some of the Midwest teams going to the West Coast having not so great of success, and kind of vice versa. So could it be that the longer travel for Oregon, and still have to mix in some colder weather? Definitely not cold by any means. I'm sure everyone in Wisconsin was wearing t-shirt and shorts because that's what they do. But definitely different than some of the West Coast weather. So between the weather and the travel, I think that's kind of what was kind of the hang up there for Oregon. Ohio State kind of dog walks Northwestern, which doesn't really shock me. Texas with a little squeaker over Arkansas, 20-10. Definitely not again, as high powered as that offense is, and as kind of lackluster as Arkansas has been. I mean, they're 5-5, 3-4 in the SEC, whereas Texas is 9-1. Is a win a win? Yeah, especially when it comes to this year. You don't want to be losing games like this, but with as many, and I'm not going to say as many teams that can or are in line for those spots. It's just a matter. I think now it's coming down to a matter of seeding. Okay, and before we get into too many more of these games, let's look at what the AP top 25 looks like. Still has Oregon on top, Ohio State 2, Texas 3, Penn State 4, IU 5, which was a big jump for IU. Notre Dame 6, a big jump for them. Alabama 7, Georgia 8, Ole Miss 9, Tennessee 10, Miami 11, Boise 12, SMU 13, BYU 14, A&M 15, Colorado, which had a big win, 16, Clemson 17. Clemson hung on by the skin of their teeth. Pretty much a walk-off touchdown by their quarterback. Army, South Carolina, Tulane, and then on and on and on. So definitely a little bit of a shakeup just because of some of the losses, by Tennessee and whatnot. So the next game I was going to get into one of the next ones was BYU getting beat by Kansas, but just kind of shows you. I mean, that we're yes, there are still some big games left on the slate, which we're going to get into here, taking a peek at next week. But definitely, this is I guess you could call it maybe a separation weekend. Ohio State takes care of business. We're going to see Penn State take care of Purdue. So some of these teams that are vying for those spots, they're trying to create separation where maybe it's style points, maybe it's, outscoring your opponent, whatever the case may be, because what we're seeing with this committee is the strength of schedule part really is not playing a whole lot, or it isn't weighing a whole lot, or I shouldn't say a whole lot, but not as much as in the past. So what's going to separate, obviously aside from record, of course, but what's going to separate these teams, when we're looking at, 2 1-loss teams, whether it's 2 Big Ten, 2 SEC, or 1 from each, what's going to separate these teams? Is it going to be style points like this, or is it going to be strength of schedule? And leading up to this, the strength of schedule really hasn't played as much of a factor as a lot of people would have thought. But like I said, number 4 Penn State goes into Purdue, never really a game. It was 21-0 or 21-3, excuse me, at half, and Penn State just opened it up from there. Drew Aller has 3 touchdowns, 247 yards passing, so definitely a big game for him. And like I said, the Kansas goes into BYU and comes away with a big win, 17-13. So BYU notches its first loss of the season. How will the committee kind of keep that into perspective? So yes, there are still a lot of unanswered questions. And there's a lot. I think there's going to be more shuffling for position rather than shuffling to get in and out of the playoffs. And I can't say it enough. Especially since the strength of schedule is not really being weighed a whole lot. Is it going to come down to style points? Who knows? But probably the biggest game on the slate, like I mentioned, is Georgia's big win over Tennessee. This was 17-17 at half, and Georgia at halftime made a hell of an adjustment and did not let Tennessee score the rest of the game. The only problem is that the Tennessee defense allowed 14 points to Georgia, so they came away with a big win, 31-7, a much needed Georgia win, because if they fall to 7-3 as opposed to 8-2, I think we're having a whole different discussion when it comes to Georgia and their playoff lives, if you want to think about it that way. I think a 3-loss Georgia team is done. So was it it was an elimination game for Georgia. Tennessee, I mean, yeah, they're still 8-2. But I think that this Georgia game kind of exposed them and exposed a lot of their weaknesses. Yes, their defense was very good. Maybe it was the case that their defense was out. They were just out on the field way too long, and they got tired. We've seen that over and over again. And this Georgia team was relentless. Yes, the Tennessee defense played very well, but you saw a lot of Tennessee 3-and-outs or some very quick series when it came to that Tennessee offense that just kind of, their offense just kind of let them down. And it was good to see Beck get back on, kind of the Carson Beck that we kind of know, that we've come to know, let's put it that way, throwing for 347 and 2 touchdowns. Nico had 160 yards passing, no touchdowns, no picks. The only, let's see here. They had 2 rushing touchdowns. That Sampson kid had a hell of a game for Tennessee, but it was pretty much just too much Georgia for that Tennessee squad to kind of overcome. So Georgia staved. I guess you could really say they staved off elimination because, like I said, a 3-loss Georgia team or a 3-loss any team, I think is pretty much done at this point. But Virginia comes into South Bend. Notre Dame beats them 35-14. We saw Riley Leonard have probably his best game as the Irish quarterback. Definitely not the gaudy passing numbers, only 214 yards passing, but 3 passing touchdowns, which was huge. And I believe this is one of the few games where he didn't have a rushing touchdown. Jeremiah Love had 137 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. And we saw Jaden Harrison for the Irish kind of become that go-to guy in late in the game, making some very important catches, having a touchdown of his own. And Mitchell Evans, the tight end, getting closer to that form that he was last year prior to the knee injury. So the defense is top 10 in almost every single statistical category for Notre Dame. And now we're seeing that offense kind of get to that next gear, that next level. And what I found absolutely shocking is that their offensive line is up for the top offensive line in the country award. The name escapes me. And half of the guys are backups. So I honestly think that, this is a phenomenal coaching job by Coach Freeman. Yes, the Northern Illinois loss is still going to be there. That's not going away anytime soon. But when you can use it for motivation instead of just being like, oh, well, fuck, we lost bad. We lost to a bad team. Let's just fold it up. No, they've rattled off 8 wins in a row. So kudos. And it seems like, I'm not going to say everything's clicking on all cylinders, but definitely a very, very different Notre Dame team than we saw even a couple weeks ago. So very excited to see. They've got Army and then USC to finish out the year. So, and again, like I mentioned on the top 25 list, Army is still undefeated. They are a top 25 team. So we shall see what happens with that. Alabama has a blowout against Mercer, 52-7. Boise State has a big win, 42-21 over San Jose State. We mentioned SMU in the top 25. They win 38-28. And let's go to the Colorado game. They get a win over Utah, 49-24. This game was actually close. And that second half, in particular, the fourth quarter, Colorado just opens it up. We see Travis Hunter beginning to separate himself in the Heisman watch. I guess you could say he is the odds-on favorite. We've seen him go from now, I think it was plus 2,000, now down to 210 or somewhere very similar to that. So definitely the betting favorite there going forward. And I've caught a lot of heat for this in the past on prior programs, but I'm not alone in thinking he is the best athlete in the country right now. No, there's no one that can tell me that there's another player at this caliber that can have the production at receiver and the production at corner and play as many snaps as he does on a team that's ranked 17th in the country, and if they win out, will be playing for the Big 12 title. And yes, you could make a case for Genty for Boise State. I mean, all he did was have 159 yards and 3 touchdowns. So dude is definitely balling, but it's the I'm not gonna say it's the Charles Woodson factor, because when Woodson won it in 97 or 98, I can't remember. I think it was 97. We saw him play the vast majority of defense, have a little bit of an impact on offense, but also a little bit of impact on the return game. Never had and if Hunter wins this, he will be like the first dual, like as many snaps on defense as many snaps on offense, and be super productive at both positions. Yes, there Woodson did have some gadget plays. He was installed in the offense. He did have a couple packages here and there, but that did not play nearly the amount of snaps that that Hunter plays week in, week out. And like I said, puts up numbers on both sides of the ball. So and now where that projects to, his draft status, who picks him and what is their plan for him. I mean, that's well past my pay grade. But I honestly think and if it's just me, I'm selecting him as a receiver, not a corner. Not to say that he couldn't play both, but I think you'll see some dancing in the draft as far as when it comes like his time. There will be some trades to get to to see who's going to get him and where he's going to land, because let's be honest, wide receiver and corner are 2 very valuable positions. So we shall see. But as far as playing both at the next level, I highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. Not to say he can't. It's just the amount of time, effort, and just a risk of injury. That to me, that outweighs kind of everything. And Shedeur Sanders, I mean, he himself is making a name for his own Heisman talk. 340 passing, 3 touchdowns. But like I said, Hunter's kind of stealing some of his mojo there, but I have a feeling if you ask him, he'll be all right with it. Let's see here. Louisville goes down to Stanford. Like I said, Clemson has a walk-off against Pittsburgh. And again, another elimination game. If Clemson has 3 losses, they're out. They're out completely. I shouldn't say out. Well, yeah, they probably wouldn't be going into the ACC championship game with 3 losses, but and the big one to wrap up the night, LSU goes down to the Bayou and lays an egg in Florida. They lose 27-16. Now, if you followed the program for any amount of time, we here have given Brian Kelly and his family heat since he left Notre Dame to go to LSU. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago, how, I was kind of, a lot of Notre Dame fans were kind of bamboozled by what this guy actually can do. And we're seeing it unfold somewhere else. So it's not just, if it happens once, it's a fluke. If it happens twice, now we see patterns. And this wasn't even a game against a ranked opponent. Florida was 4-5 going into this game. LSU was 6-3. So this was not a, Brian Kelly losing to another ranked opponent, because that wasn't the case at all. That wasn't the case at all. But I do have a tweet here about Mr. Kelly. This is from Nolan Lago ND34 over on Twitter. This is Brian Kelly's buyout. Kelly's contract specifies that LSU would owe him 90% of his remaining contract value if terminated without cause. This means his buyout, if fired without cause, would be as follows. November of this year, $60.8 million. November next year, 51.7, and 26, 42.5, 27, 33.1, 28, 23.4, 29, 13.5. So what exactly am I getting at here? What I'm getting at here is Brian Kelly's agent is phenomenal, because to get out of this contract, to fire him without cause and playing, losing games and playing, have your team playing bad, is not a cause to be fired. When you're talking about cause to be fired, you're talking about, a situation with multiple sanctions, or, something illegal, or I'm not even going to put that into the ether. I'm not saying that Kelly's done any of that. I'm just giving you examples for cause to be fired. And the what that tweet showed was the vast amount of money that LSU would be on the hook for if they did part ways with Coach Kelly. Now, there's a whole lot of LSU fans that are like, get him the fuck out of here. We don't care how much it costs. Probably because it's not their money, but still. It would take yes, I'm firmly aware that boosters pay these contracts. I get it. Or help bolster them, let's put it that way. And if there was a buyout, would there be boosters to help pay that money? Yeah. But all in all, that is a lot of money. So you have the monetary thing compared to the lack of production on the field, and we saw Coach Kelly blow up at a number of his wide receivers and surrounding players. We saw that at Notre Dame with quarterbacks, and then all of a sudden he became the calm and cool Coach Kelly. But as a Notre Dame fan, I probably should thank LSU for taking him away from South Bend, because I'm over the moon ecstatic with the return that we got. Just ecstatic. So I'm not going to say keep an eye on Baton Rouge to see if Coach Kelly makes it to Monday, because like I said, with those numbers, I would be very shocked if they did fire him. Even he's got at least 2 or 3 more years there before that becomes an actual thing, in my opinion. But I kind of hinted at, let's take a look at next week's schedule. I mean, we've got Indiana, Ohio State, which is rumored to where College Game Day will be, which just looking at the schedule, I don't see where else they could be going. Undefeated Indiana team, 1-loss Ohio State team. And again, games at noon. Talked about it a little bit last week. That's the controversy in the Big Ten right now. These big, big noon kickoffs so that they can compete with, College Game Day over on ESPN. This is the type of shit you get. When you let TV determine pretty much your schedule, not who you play, but when you play them. And now, the Big Ten is seeing that, yes, they are, the creme de la creme conference this season. And the number 2, number 5 matchup is going to be the crown jewel. So, and College Game Day can be there too. So it really doesn't matter. Now I'm full on board. This should be a 7:30 game. Every single game day location should be a 7:30 game. I mean, folks watching live, tell me if I'm wrong. Just it seems like a lot of the mystique, a lot of the tradition, a lot of the juice is gone when you play a big game like this at noon. Now, I know for all of you purists that are going to say, well, Turbo, Michigan, Ohio State's always at noon. Yeah, I get that. Still have no idea why. It'd be a whole lot cooler if it was at 7:30. Now that every single stadium has lights, and every single stadium has these fancy lights that, the LED lights, now they have a light show. Now they have a DJ. Now it's more of a destination as just than just a football game. So why not take advantage of that? Why not showcase these games at 7:30? I'm 100% on board with you guys and gals. 2K crew, I'll lead the charge. I really don't care. I want to see these games at 7:30. And OSU opening up as an 11.5 point favorite. That's a lot of points, 2K crew. That's a lot of points. That's a lot of points. I'm saying right now, if you can get that 11.5 line, not saying Indiana's going to win this game, but I think Indiana keeps it a hell of a lot closer than 11.5 points. I would jump on that right now. Right now. And for those of you Indiana, Ohio State fans, at least you're not Michigan State playing on Friday. Playing on Friday. It seems like we've had a Big Ten game on Friday every single, the vast majority of the schedule this year. And I don't ever remember that happening. Have a very good feeling it's because of Fox. So Big Ten fans, you can only blame yourselves for getting in bed with this whole Fox thing. So, but everyone else said that was a great idea. It was a lot of money. A lot of money. But when it comes down to it, you're locked in at playing these noon games. You're locked into a lot of, Friday games. Granted, Michigan State's not that good. They're not that good. And they're playing Purdue, which is, again, not that good. Not good at all. So it's not like you're placing two premier programs on Friday, but we have seen Oregon play on Friday. So it's not just the peon teams. So I'm curious to see where this Fox stuff goes. Texas hosts Kentucky. That really shouldn't be a problem. Clemson hosts the Citadel. Louisville hosts Pittsburgh, Army at Notre Dame playing at Yankee Stadium. Notre Dame opens as a 17-point favorite. Only thing that scares me there is anytime you get a run first team or just blatantly a run team like Army, you have to score on every single possession and try to steal one or two to even come close to that 17. Now we saw an absolute dismantling of Navy. Do I think that Army's going to turn the ball over like 6 times? No, I really don't. You really can't bank on, getting 6 turnovers every single game. I believe it was, I want to say either myself or 2K selected Alabama at Oklahoma as a game day destination, but we've seen Oklahoma just completely shit the bed. So that's definitely not going to be a destination. But like I said, it's pretty. It was leaked. I'm not saying we should take that to the bank, but I mean pretty much that they will be in at the Horseshoe. And that's kind of the slate here, 2K crew. So not a very heavy slate. Definitely spread out. I mean, we've kind of beat the Indiana, Ohio State into the ground for being at noon. So that's definitely, and Army Notre Dame is at 7 o'clock. Alabama, Oklahoma is at 7:30. So definitely can spread your time out here, 2K crew. So kind of set your DVRs or your schedule there according. All right. Well, like I said, we're getting down to the nitty gritty, and the vast majority of folks that had issues with the committee was because of the whole strike the schedule stuff. So we shall see if they listen. We shall see what goes on from there. But yeah, it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had for sure. For sure. Let's get a quick refresh here. All right, 2K crew, let's jump into some NFL talk here. We got Bengals Chargers. We got Bengals leading 3-0. 3:39 in the first quarter. All right, let's do a quick little run around recap. We saw yet another. This is 2 weeks in a row now, 2K crew, that a team won by blocking a field goal. Last week we had the Chiefs. This week we have the Packers. And this was kind of the game that I think actually, you know what? Before we jump into the recap here, I did want to, we kind of touched on the Christmas Day football being on Netflix. Well, the Thanksgiving slate. I don't know who has looked this far ahead, but this is from 99 over on Twitter. Thanksgiving slate. The 12:30 game, Bears at Lions. Lions probably score another 60. Giants at Cowboys, 4:30. Looks like prime napping time. Cooper Rush versus Danny Dimes. Yep. Super excited to watch that one. Super excited to watch that one. Then we got Dolphins at Packers, the 8:20. And we've seen the Dolphins play better. So it's definitely not unwatchable. Close. I think the 4:30 slot, you could definitely, once that turkey hits, take your nap then. Get some Z's in, refresh, get ready for 8:20. We see the whole, no, not all, but 3 of the 4 NFC North teams. We'll see what the Bears have going forward. I'm just not super excited. I'm not super excited like we should be, but kind of getting, going from that, Bears Lions on Thanksgiving to Bears Packers today. The Bears look better. After firing offensive coordinator, passing coordinator now becomes offensive coordinator. And we saw them. I mean, Jordan Love didn't have a spectacular game. 261, a touchdown and an interception. But Caleb played better. 23 of 31, 231 yards, no touchdowns, and even bigger, no interceptions. DeAndre Swift, they're running the ball. They had 179 yards rushing to 106 for the Packers. Last I checked, the Packers have a badass running back in Josh Jacobs. He only had 76 yards, but he had a touchdown. Jordan Love had a rushing touchdown. Christian Watson has a huge game for 150 yards. And we saw both Rome Odunze and DJ Moore both have over 60 yards receiving. Holy shit, they're throwing the ball to Cole Kmet. What do you know? 3 catches for 42 yards. Keenan Allen gets in the mix for 4 catches and 41 yards of his own. So Bears definitely aren't back by any means, but I think this is a very good step forward. I really think it is. I think it is. Well, let's talk Lions. Yes, I know. You're saying Turbo, the Jags stink, the Turbo, this and that. Yeah, the Jags are terrible. Jags are absolutely garbage. Absolutely garbage. And I'm almost, Mac Jones was their quarterback. I think if Trevor Lawrence is there, I think the result is very similar. A 52-6 beatdown of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'll kind of run over some stats here, and then I got some tweets here to kind of back it up. Mac Jones throws for 138 yards, and they have 41 yards rushing. So less than 200 yards in offense. Let's look at the other side of this coin, shall we? Jared Goff has 412 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. Montgomery has 75 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Gibbs has 69 yards and 1 touchdown. So it's kind of like everyone gets, and St. Brown has 161 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jamison Williams has 124 yards and 1 touchdown. So this is basically like your JV varsity type deal. And this was 28-6 at half. So this was never a game. But like I said, I do have some tweets here. Let's get into here. This is from Mark Schlereth. I don't believe that anyone will survive the night in Jaguars organization. I believe the owner will clean house after that ass whipping. And if you guys do not follow Mark Schlereth on Twitter, I highly suggest. He is quite the follow. But he's 100% right. 100% right. This was the same owner that said this is the greatest Jaguar team we've ever assembled. Well, definitely not. Definitely not. Pretty sure Jags fans want Byron Leftwich or Mark Brunell back because this team's garbage. What's Maurice Jones-Drew doing? He still got any gas left? Because man, this isn't hard to watch football. This is unwatchable football, unless you are a Lions fan and you just want to see an absolute dildoing. I mean, that's exactly what this was. Let's see here. I've got a couple more here. This is from Robert Griffin III. Guys, the Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFL. And as we'll get to, there are no more undefeated teams. So I was beating this drum for 2 or 3 weeks now that the Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFL. And there's so many people like, Turbo, the Kansas City Chiefs are undefeated. Cool. But if those two teams played today, the Lions would beat them 7 out of 10 times. There's no doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. And we saw the debut of their D-end acquisition. So it's good to see him on the field. So, yeah, this Lions team's a wagon. Lions team is a wagon. I believe I have one more here for Jared Goff. This is from the Detroit Lions PR. The only quarterback in NFL history to have multiple games with 400-plus passing yards and a 158.3 passer rating is Jared Goff. Jared Goff. The same Jared Goff that was kind of traded on a whim to get rid of. Was going to be a bridge quarterback till the Lions can draft another quarterback. I think Detroit's found their guy. Vikings beat a very terrible Tennessee Titans team, 23-10. Like I said, Dolphins beat the shit out of the Raiders, which the Raiders are the only bright spot for the Raiders is Brock Bowers, the tight end. Bowers had 126 yards and a touchdown, and it seems like you can pencil him in for 10-plus catches and over 100 yards and a touchdown every single week, regardless of who's at quarterback. Speaking of which, who is the quarterback for them? Oh, Minshew Mania, 282 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Tua goes 288 for 3 touchdowns. Achane goes 73 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Let's see. Jonnu Smith has 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill has 61 yards and a touchdown. So it was pretty much status quo for the Miami Dolphins. Still not. Chargers went up 7-3 with looks like the first quarter coming to an end. But let's keep cruising. Rams over Patriots. I believe if you're a Rams fan, this game is a whole lot closer than what you really, really wanted. And I think it's kind of safe to say that Drake May is looking like the guy. He's looking like the guy. He goes 282, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Stafford goes 295, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, which is huge. Kyron Williams, 86 yards rushing. Ramondre Stevenson, 73 yards rushing. But the story here is that the Puka Nacua Cooper Kupp tandem, as always, when they're healthy. Puka has 7 catches, 123 yards and a tud. Cooper Kupp has six catches, 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Colby Parkinson on his only reception, 19 yards and a touchdown. So don't sleep on the Rams. But this Drake May kid's balling out and has very little team around him. Very little team. Browns at Saints. Saints get a 35-14 win. Let's click on the box, even though I really don't want to look at it. Jameis goes 395 and 2 touchdowns. No picks. Attaboy Jameis. Derek Hill has kind of about... Derek Carr, looking at Derek Carr and Taysom Hill, and all of a sudden became Derek Hill. Derek Carr had went 21-27, 248, 2 touchdowns. Taysom Hill totes the rock 7 times for 138 yards and 3 touchdowns. Bet you no one saw that line coming. Nick Chubb, 11 carries for 50 yards. Jerry Jeudy has a big game, 6 catches, 142 yards and a touchdown. Saints are 4-7. Browns are 2-8. I think that's all you pretty much need to say about that. Pretty much all you need to say about that. Colts at the Jets. Colts get a big win, 28-27. Let's check the box score here because I do have a tweet on this one. We saw the return of Anthony Richardson. He goes 20 of 30, 227 yards, and a touchdown and no picks. He also has 10 carries for 32 yards and two rushing touchdowns. Rodgers has 184 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Breece Hall, 78 yards and a touchdown. And Breece Hall also has a receiving touchdown, as well as Kenny Yeboah. Totally butchered that last name. Spread the ball around. Why don't you, AR? I mean, hell, seems like everyone on the team got a catch. Looks like that is the case, but I mean, this is it. As long as Anthony Richardson is not turning the ball over, he's not a bad quarterback. And with that being said, let's check this tweet out. Let's check this tweet out. This is from Sam Block at the Block Spot over on Twitter. This was after he sat last week, and this is kind of a response to that. Sam says, Richardson is younger than Shedeur Sanders, is younger than Carson Beck, is younger than Dylan Gabriel, is younger than Jaden Daniels, is younger than Caleb Williams, is younger than Bo, and younger than Michael Penix. And y'all gave up. It's a very good point. And we've sat here not only on this show, but we've heard almost every single show talk about the kind of the lack of development when it comes to NFL quarterbacks. And I think we're seeing this all over, and it's not the lack of development. It's the lack of, I think a lot of times, lack of coaching, because when you're drafting a quarterback in the first round, your team usually stinks. Let's rip the Band-Aid off, say the complete obvious. Your team's terrible. Your team is terrible. And with a lot of these guys like Richardson, you could say the same thing for Daniels. And even going back to Trey Lance, these guys haven't played a lot. And especially with Richardson, he pretty much missed 3/4 of let's just call a spade a spade. He missed damn near the entire year last year of his rookie year. So to expect him to come out and put up numbers, yes, we've seen it with CJ Stroud last year. We started to see it with Daniels this year, where they just come out the gate hot and just win and do all the things that they're supposed to do. But that's not always the case. Patrick Mahomes did not. Let's rewind it. Mahomes didn't start right out the gate. Rodgers didn't start right out the gate. Jordan Love didn't start right out the gate. There's a number of, May didn't start right out the gate. And we're seeing kind of the success he's having with a very, very terrible team. And with this Colts team, they have the veteran leadership, or should, for this team to compete. Now, they are 5-6. They are still alive in the AFC South. They are still alive for a wild card spot. So the Colts are not dead. The Jets, on the other hand, we deemed them dead a couple weeks ago. So this is just like a continuation of the funeral here. So I think if you're a Jets fan, you have to really ask yourself, Rodgers is talking about playing again next year. And do you really want that? Do you really, really want that? So it is what it is. But yeah, Colts fans, let's be patient with AR as long as he stays healthy. If he continues to go off the field and on the field, and I think a lot of people were kind of taken aback when he took himself out of the game because he was tired. I get that. But look at that. Let's bring that list back up. Let's bring that list back up. There's 1, 2, 3, quarterbacks that are still in college, and then 4 that were drafted last year. That he is younger than. And with the dudes that are the 3 that are at the top there that are college quarterbacks, we're not talking like a 23 and 24-year-old quarterback. These guys are not that old. So we're not talking like a Stetson Bennett type situation here. So I am very shocked that he's younger than Michael Penix, because it seems like Michael Penix was in college football for 7-8 years. But be patient. You're definitely not out of the playoffs yet. Probably the biggest game of the day so far, Ravens at Steelers. And this is one that I had bookmarked here that I did want to spend some time on. I think the Steelers are for real. I honestly think the Steelers are for real. This was like this was their first division game. So they have a lot of their divisional games on the back end of their schedule. They went 4-2 under Justin Fields. They're 4-0 now with Russell Wilson. And yes, we all made fun of Russ and his, Danger Witch and Mr. Unlimited and all of the shit that kind of surrounded him. And rightfully so, because he brought it on himself. Let's be completely honest. But we're looking at a Steelers team that is a dominant defense. Has all of a sudden said, you know what? Let's run with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren because we can. George Pickens is starting to be an elite receiver. And now in Russell Wilson, we're seeing a career resurgence in Pittsburgh. And this was kind of the litmus test for me, 2K Crew. This is a Ravens team that a lot of people on their power rankings had 3rd or 4th. And very much ahead of the Steelers going into this matchup. So we saw Lamar kind of be, he came back down to earth. Lamar is human. He went 207, a touchdown and a pick. Russ goes 205 and a pick. Derrick Henry has a very human, unlike Derrick Henry day, 13 carries, 65 yards and a touchdown. Najee has 18 carries for 63 yards. George Pickens has 8 catches for 89 yards. Isaiah Likely has 4 catches for 75 yards. Zay Flowers has the lone touchdown for either team because Pittsburgh was on the leg of Boswell. There it is. Boswell goes 6 for 6 in a big 18-16 win. I mean, this is AFC North football, ladies and gentlemen. This is a defensive struggle on both sides of the ball. So this is the type of score you kind of expect when these two teams get together. Now, the thing that kind of shocks me is you have Lamar throw 33 times and only let Henry carry the ball 13 times. To me, I would like it more the 20-25 carry, especially in a close game like this. But like I said, that Steelers defense is for real. Steelers defense is for real. And like I said, I think the Steelers are for real. But we're going to see what's more likely moving forward because, like I said, this was their first divisional game. They still have 1 more with the Ravens, 2 more with the Bengals, and then 2 more with the Browns. So Bengals, 2 with the Bengals, 1 more with the Ravens. We'll kind of see how that falls out, but I'm kind of loving the Steelers right now. The biggest shock on the slate, 2K Crew, is Falcons at Broncos. What the hell's going on with this Falcons team, 2K Crew? What are we doing? They're 6-5. And after this game, they're 6-5, and so are the Broncos. So are the Broncos. Kirk Cousins goes for 173 and a pick. On the flip side, Bo Nix goes for 307 and 4 touchdowns. 4 touchdowns. Javonte Williams has probably one of the best touchdown carries of the week. Bijan has 35 yards rushing. Yes, this Denver defense is legit. This Denver defense is probably a top 5 defense in the NFL. And I'm not saying that this the Falcons offense is just playmaker after playmaker after playmaker, but I would expect them to score more than 6 points. When this game was done at half, 21-6. 21-6. And I think we're going to see a trend here is that the games that Atlanta struggles with, Kyle Pitts is nowhere to be found. He had 1 catch for 9 yards. Targeted 3 times. It was good to see Drake London back. He only had 3 catches. So in that NFC South, are the Falcons still alive? Yeah, but they need to get their shit together. They need to get their shit together because it seems like that boat is sinking fast. Sinking very fast. But kudos to Bo Nix for making a hell of a game. 4 touchdown passes. That's awesome. That is awesome. Let's see here. Where'd we leave off? All right. Seahawks at Niners. Seahawks at Niners. Now, 49ers fans, are you worried? I mean, you kind of have to be. You're 5-5. So are the Seahawks. Purdy has 159 yards passing, a touchdown, and a pick. McCaffrey has 79 yards on 19 carries. Brock Purdy has 40 yards rushing and a touchdown. Geno goes 221 and a pick. Kenneth Walker has a touchdown and 54 yards rushing. Jackson Smith and Njigba, 10 catches, 110 yards. Kind of leads the way here. DK has 7 catches for 70 yards. Just kind of a clunker. This is a game, and I believe Bosa went out, I believe in the second half. So kind of seeing how bad that injury is, kind of see what happened there. And if I'm a Niners fan, I'm worried on a 0 to 100 in the worry meter. I'm getting about that 35 range, maybe 40. Maybe 40 might be pushing it. 40 might be pushing it. We'll see. Kind of, next week is kind of a very, very big, kind of needle point. This is the 3rd game back for McCaffrey. How is he holding up? We need to see a little bit more performance out of him. How, is that going to come? Is that going to come? Because if you look at the, Mason, his backup, while he was out, he was very, very productive. Very productive. So is it time to go back to him? I'm definitely not saying they will, but definitely going to be especially if McCaffrey has a less than awesome line next week. So just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there too, Kaker. Like I said, I'm not saying it's going to happen. But let's talk about the game of the night. The game of the night. The 9-0 Chiefs go down to the 8-2 Buffalo Bills. And for this rivalry, ladies and gentlemen, we're all well aware. Seems like the Bills win these in the regular season, but do not win them in the playoffs. Well, that trend continued. Buffalo gets a big 30-21 win over Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Again, we're not seeing the gaudy passing numbers out of Mahomes like we're accustomed to seeing. He goes 23 of 33, 196 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Whereas Josh Allen goes 27 of 40, 262, a touchdown, and a pick. Kareem Hunt is could be the pickup of the year. Dude was walking the streets and has led the team in rushing ever since he signed with the team. He goes for he has 60 yards rushing. Josh Allen leads the way on the other side, 55 yards and a touchdown rushing. James Cooks has 9 carries for 20 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Xavier Worthy has 61 yards receiving and a touchdown. D-Hop has 3 catches for 29 yards. And Travis Kelce only has 2 catches for 8 yards. Shakir for Buffalo has 8 catches, 70 yards. Curtis Samuel became kind of a go-to target there for a while. 5 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown. So this was definitely a game that Buffalo definitely had circled. This was a game that Buffalo needed, whether it's for their psyche or just to prove to themselves that they can beat the Chiefs. Now, the next question is, can they beat them in the playoffs? Which, unfortunately, none of us can answer until they actually meet in the playoffs. But kind of goes, I mean, for all of the Patrick Mahomes MVP talk, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, where I was just banging the drum that Jared Goff should be at the top of that list, followed a close second by Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen, well, Jared Goff put some space in between him and the rest of the crew here. But I'm firmly believing that Josh Allen is that firm number 2 when it comes to the NFL MVP right now, without a doubt. Let's check in on this Chargers-Bengals game. We got a 14-6 score here, 11:02 in the second. Herbert's a perfect 6 for 6, 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. Burrow's 10 for 14, 103 yards. See, Jamar has 3 catches, 47 yards. T. Higgins, 3 catches, 34 yards. Justin Herbert has the longest rush. He's leading the team in rushing with 1 carry for 20 yards. Doesn't really seem like they've got the running game going so far. But when your quarterback's Justin Herbert and he's perfect, and it's still very, very early in the game. Very early in the game. All right, I think we're just about hit this nail on the head here. Let's take a quick peek at. I do want to check something real quick here, 2K crew, so hang in there with me. Standings. Yep. Buffalo still has a commanding lead in the East. Pittsburgh has a 2-game lead over the Ravens. Texans have a 2-game lead over the Colts. Chiefs have a 2-game lead over this Chargers team, and Eagles lead the Commanders. Lions have a 1-game lead over the Vikings, with the Packers breathing down their necks. Falcons, I mean, the Falcons are fortunate that the Panthers and the Saints are in that division, and they're also fortunate that Tampa's as banged up as they are. So yeah, they do have some time to figure it out, but not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. And Arizona leads the West. Rams are 5-5. The rest of the division's 5-5, and they sit there 6-4. So anyone's division. Like I said, the Seahawks with a big win today. The 49ers, if they get that win, would be in second behind the Cardinals. So definitely gettable. Definitely gettable if you are a Niners fan, Seahawks fan, Rams fan. But don't look now. Like, the Cardinals team's playing good football. Kind of bummed that they had a late bye like this, but if they're going into the bye hot, we'll see how they come out of the bye. You're supposed to get better when you have a bye, right? So it's going to be interesting to see. Still a lot of races up for grabs, but like I said, there are some that are out of reach. But yeah, everyone have a great week. Like I opened the show with. I hope your bets did better than mine this weekend, and let's all see the board extremely well this coming week. Tomorrow night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Let's all win our bets. And as always, Jabron, we're coming for you.